Hello, as you will be aware, I'm proposing to do a weekly video YouTube on people's rights. Uh, I'll cover various areas: tax, social welfare, general law, planning, landlord and tenant, consumer rights, etc. And I'll do a different topic each week. The purpose of what I'm doing is twofold. First of all, uh, as people will be aware, the Parliament passes various pieces of legislation every year, several in fact in each year. Then there are court decisions literally every week on points of law of public importance. There are various regulations, statutory regulations, etc., statutory instruments, decisions of various tribunals, etc. There are some of those that might affect people. Some of them people can benefit from, and they should be aware of them. In many cases they're not. Sometimes they have the capacity, changes have the capacity to affect people in an adverse way at some time in the future when they come up against them. And if they know they're there, then they may be in a position to deal with the matter in advance, or at least when it arises. So today I just want to mention two fairly significant legal developments which I've come across in the last week. A few weeks ago, the Rent Tribunal, which decides on disputes between landlord and tenant, decided that a clause in the rent agreement which was put in by the landlord, which allowed the landlord's family to occupy the property that was let at weekends, say when they were visiting the area for rugby matches, etc., the Rent Tribunal decided that that clause was illegal, that the landlord can't have that sort of right, that the tenant is entitled to exclusive possession. Of course, that doesn't mean that the landlord can't have an arrangement or have a clause in the tenancy agreement that allows him to come in to do necessary repairs, etc. That's a different thing. But they can't come in for weekend jaunts or sort of take possession whenever they wish. The tenant is entitled to exclusive possession. The other interesting thing is that many people have been complaining, indeed some of our judges even have been complaining about delays in law cases. Some of those law cases, as you know, can drag on for years, and you'll often find that the longer they go on, the greater the cost. Now, a new system is being put in place whereby if somebody who's involved in a law case feels that the case is going on too long, they can make an application to assessor. A number of assessors are going to be appointed. The assessor will have various rights, for example, to get a declaration from another court that the case is taking too long, and the assessor will also have the right to award compensation to the litigant if they feel that the case is going on too long. Now, that system is not in operation yet, but I'm reliably informed it's coming into operation sometime in the autumn. So I would say watch out for it in September, and it's something that people can avail of. Now, as I've said, the social welfare topic I want to cover today relates to something that affects an awful lot of people, namely carers allowance. Now, as you will be aware, or as you may or may not be aware, there's a huge number of people in Ireland caring for elderly or sick relatives, but only a tiny percentage, I think it's probably 20% or less, of those are actually getting carers allowance. Now, there are two ways a person can claim for looking after somebody who is either ill, mentally or physically incapacitated, or too elderly to look after themselves and need full-time care and attention. You can apply for carers benefit or carers allowance. What I want to concentrate on today is carers allowance. Carers benefit is where you are at work and you want to take time out from work. You want to either stop working completely or reduce your hours to 18 and a half hours per week or less to look after a relative who falls into that category, and you've paid a certain amount of stamps. But that's a different thing. Most people, actually most carers, don't envisage going back to work because the person they're caring for is going to need full-time care and attention for the remainder of their lives. Obviously, when they die, the person who is caring for them at that point can either seek alternative social welfare benefits or they have the choice of going. They can go back, seek work, and go back to work. Now, carers allowance applies when somebody is caring for a person who is mentally or physically incapacitated, or who's too old or too infirm for whatever reason to look after themselves properly, and they need full-time care and attention. Now, the person making the application must be at least 18 years of age, and as I've said, they must be giving what the department describes, or what the regulations describe, as full-time care and attention. That means that they're looking after the relative for at least 35 hours per week, at least 35 hours per week. Um, as I've said, there are many people doing that, but very few getting, but it's only a tiny percentage, small percentage, getting carers allowance or carers benefit. And people can reasonably ask the question, why is that so? Well, two main reasons why people are refused carers allowance are, first of all, the department might decide that the person being cared for doesn't need, that they might be ill or whatever, or elderly, but they don't need full-time care and attention. Full-time care and attention isn't warranted. Now, that's something that often comes up, and it can be challenged. Now, it's very important that people applying for carers allowance have the strongest possible medical evidence of the condition of the person being cared for. And if you're refused carers allowance, you can always look for a review and subsequently appeal the decision, or you can look for a review and appeal at the same time. In my experience, the department, in very many cases, refuse an initial application for carers allowance. But, if you fight the case, look for a review, etc., then do an appeal, etc., generally, a lot of people who are initially turned down turn out to be successful. The second reason why people can be refused a carers allowance is because there's a means test for carers allowance in Ireland. Now, that's contentious, and there's been a lot of debate as to whether or not there should be a means test. But my function here today is just to tell you what the rules are at the moment. The means test at the moment is, if you're a single person, you can earn up to €450 per week and still get the full carers allowance. Now, if you're a bit over 450, you can still get partial carers allowance. It begins to come down bit by bit when your earnings come over the requisite 450. If you're a married person, you can earn double that, which is €900 per week, and still get the carers allowance, and still get partial carers allowance if you go slightly over that. Now, that's going to be considerably extended from next July. From next July, a single person can earn €625 per week, and a married person can earn €1,300 per week to get the full carers allowance. Now, €1,300 per week is 65,000 per year, which means that a lot of people will be brought in. And as I say, it doesn't stop at 65,000. If you're, say, 70,000, or maybe even slightly over, you can still get some carers allowance. Can you work and get carers allowance at the same time? Yes, you can work for up to 18.5 hours per week, and but you must show that you are providing full-time care for the person who you're supposed to be caring for. And you can do that, as I say, by way of medical evidence. Now, what's very useful, I find, when people are applying for carers allowance is if you do a little diary for the 7 days a week, showing the hours for which you're actually caring for the person and what exactly you're doing. You'll probably have to answer all those questions by way of information to the department. So it's very handy to have sent in the diary in advance, and it certainly helps your case. Now, one thing I should mention is that people who are in receipt of carers allowance or carers benefit also get a once-off grant every year called the Carer Support Grant. That's a €2,000 single payment which you get each year. I think it's around June or July. That's every carer and every person getting the carers allowance will automatically get that. But what's not known, and what a lot of people don't realise, is that if somebody doesn't get the carers allowance, if say they don't qualify because their means are too high, or they don't, or for whatever other reason, they can still, if they're looking after an elderly or sick relative, they can still get the carer support grant. They can apply for it separately. It's €2,000 directly into your pocket. It's not taxed, it's not taxable, and there's no means test. So people should bear that in mind. If somebody, I'm talking there about income, 450 going up to 650 and 900 going up to 65,000 a year. 450 going up to 625, sorry, and the 900 per week that a married person can earn, going up to 1,250 per week. If somebody has capital, there's also a means test on that capital. There's a way of calculating what their income would be on that capital. But in the case of carers, the first 50,000 capital is exempt. And that's important to bear in mind. Now, various questions arise in relation to carers allowance. For example, I've been asked, can two people, if two people together are providing carers allowance for somebody, can they each claim carers allowance? Well, they can claim a single carers allowance. They can be split evenly between them. But it's very important to remember that they must be caring. Each of them must be providing the caring in the same week. They must be sharing the caring within a week. The week on, week off for the different carers would not work. People then have asked me, what is the situation if you're caring for more than one person? Well, if you're caring for two people, or three or four, if you're caring for more than one, you can get a 50% increase in your carers allowance. At the moment, for example, the carers allowance is €260 per week. If you're caring for two or more people and they're judged to fall into the category that you're entitled to claim for, you can get €390 per week. Now, another question that arises is, can somebody who is providing care and getting carers allowance, can they take holidays? The answer is yes. They can get paid for 3 weeks per year, which of course isn't very much. Another question that arises is, what happens if the person being cared for goes into a hospital or an institution? Well, the position there is that if somebody goes into an institution, if the person being cared for goes into an institution, a hospital, nursing home, whatever, the carer can continue to get carers allowance for 3 months after they go in. At that stage, if they're still in, well, I think the carers allowance will stop, but you can reapply if they come back out again. But incidentally, if the person being cared for is a child, you can claim for 6 months after they're going into a medical institution or a nursing home or into some other form of care. The person getting carers allowance can claim for 6 months. The other thing is that if the person being cared for dies, the person getting carers allowance can continue to get the carers allowance for a period of 12 weeks after the date of death. Now, I mentioned that as an alternative to carers allowance, there's a thing called carers benefit. I won't go into that too much detail today. Suffice it to say that people who have paid a minimum of 156 stamps can make an arrangement with their employer to either not work at all and look after somebody full time and apply for carers benefit, provided they're coming back to work. People claiming carers benefit can claim for up to 2 years. If at that stage the person being cared for still needs care and has nobody else to look after them, of course they can go on. They can give up work or reduce their work hours to 18.5 hours per week and still claim carers allowance. Now, one final point to make about carers allowance is that until a few years ago, people who were self-employed couldn't claim carers allowance. They now can. A self-employed person can, provided they meet the criteria. They can claim carers allowance and they can also claim the carer support grant. Now, as I said, there are many other issues relating to carers allowance that I simply wouldn't have the time to go into today. But if anybody has any views or comments about anything I've said today, or indeed any other matter that they think would be useful to cover, please feel free to contact me. You can get my contact details on my website, and I will do my best to accommodate anybody who wishes to make a comment. I'll be happy to reply to them if at all possible.